our quiet hamlet of Lurens, nestled beside the vast, ominous woods, whispered tales of the beast were woven into the fabric of life. The elders spoke of it, a monstrous guardian that roamed the woodland depths, its origins dating back to time unremembered. For centuries, the beast had been a terrifying specter, appearing to lone wanderers under the shroud of night. Nobody had seen it up close and lived to describe it, its visage remaining as elusive as the shifting shadows of the trees. My brother had ventured into those woods one fateful night, emboldened by the bravado of youth and driven by a reckless desire to prove the stories wrong. He never returned. Weeks turned to months, his absence an agonizing void in our home. Driven by desperation, guilt, and a yearning for closure, I took the burden upon myself. I had to know what became of him, even if it led me to the very lair of the beast. And so, one dark night, armed with little more than a feeble flashlight and unyielding resolve, I ventured into the heart of the beast's domain, the woods echoing with foreboding whispers of my impending fate. Night was a thick shroud as I trudged through the dense woods. The moon, a faint light obscured by the web of interlacing branches, was my only guide. My heartbeat, an erratic drumbeat, echoed in my ears as I plunged deeper into the inky abyss. A rustle, a twig snap. My heart seized. Every instinct screamed, "Danger!" But what? I swiveled my flashlight. Darkness met light and danced away, leaving naught but shadows. A prickling sensation danced on the back of my neck. I heard it then. Low growling, a rumble that vibrated through the ground and seeped into my bones. A sharp intake of breath echoed in the silent woods, and I realized with horror it was my own. My flashlight flickered, and then, in the haze of dim light, it emerged. The beast was immense, a grotesque mix of humanoid and animal. Towering over me, its frame was draped in matted fur, claws gleaming like razors. Its face was a nightmarish vision of snarling fangs and eyes burning like hot embers, exuding a primal terror that struck me to my core. Paralyzed, I could only watch as it leaned closer, its foul breath fanning over me. Time seemed to stretch, every second an eternity. Then, with a deafening roar, it reared back. I thought it was the end. I shut my eyes, my knees buckling. A distant howl echoed. The beast snapped its head, its fiery gaze fixated on some unseen danger. It gave me one last burning glance, then leapt away, disappearing into the shadows from which it came. Trembling, I collapsed, the cold earth a welcoming grave. The woods swallowed my gasping sobs, the trees whispering their ancient secrets. A truth clung to me, a chilling revelation that I wasn't at the top of the food chain. A primal terror had been stirred, a dread sewn into my bones. The woods were no longer a sanctuary but a hunting ground, and I was the prey.
In our quiet town, nestled against the whispering wilderness, a chilling tale passed from one generation to another, a story of a man consumed by anger and madness, hiding within the depths of the woods. His eyes were said to gleam silver, a merciless predator lurking in the dark. He was the nightmare that made children huddle closer to their mothers, the specter in the woods that kept them close to home. For me, the lone dweller of the town who sought refuge in the woods, this tale was intriguing. I made a home in a tiny cabin amidst the forest's embrace. The chaos of the world quieted, replaced by the tranquil symphony of rustling leaves and murmuring winds. This cabin, this forest, became my sanctuary. The local legend did not scare me but fueled my curiosity. I wondered if there was truth to the story. My solitude in the woods began to harbor a sense of expectation, an undercurrent of thrill. Night after night I found myself watching the woods, seeking the silver-eyed phantom. Years of quietude passed, marked by the silent changing of seasons. My days were calm, my nights filled with restlessness. Each rustling leaf, each unaccounted shadow seemed to hint at the presence of the elusive man of silver eyes. The town's tale had seeped into my solitary existence, making every night an anticipatory vigil. Then, one fateful night, the silent watcher made himself known. Miles from the safety of my cabin, I felt it, an uncanny sensation of being watched. My heart hammered against my chest as fear coursed through my veins. My haven had turned into an endless, terrifying labyrinth, and I was the hunted. In my frantic escape, I found a moonlit cabin in a clearing. I dashed inside, securing the door behind me, the deceptive serenity of the forest replaced by a haunting silence. The pounding began soon after, shaking me to my core. The door finally surrendered, and he stepped into the moonlight. The shadow man was tall, his form draped in darkness, a blade gleaming wickedly in his hand. His eyes were not silver, but rather two black voids, devoid of sanity. Terror froze me in place, but survival instinct soon took over. I seized a rusty fire poker from near the fireplace, its cold, sturdy weight offering a semblance of reassurance. As he lunged at me, I sidestepped his assault, his knife slicing the empty air. I retaliated, the poker connecting with his body, the sickening thud reverberating through the room. Shock flared in his eyes, and I swung again, the poker cracking against his face. He retaliated, his blade grazing my arm, pain blossoming. I didn't falter, kicking out at his legs, causing him to stumble. With a final, desperate cry, I brought the poker crashing down one last time, and he crumbled onto the floor unconscious. I stumbled out of the cabin, panting and terrified. I ran until my cabin, my sanctuary, came into view. I secured the door behind me, the terror still pulsating through my veins. The memory of the close encounter, the silver-eyed killer of the town's legend, now had a face, one that would haunt my dreams for years to come. The woods, my solace, had become a stage for my dance with death. Yet despite the lingering fear, a sense of triumph washed over me. I had come face to face with the town's nightmare, the phantom I had sought for years, and against all odds, I had survived.
I'd always been open online, sharing thoughts, photos, and details of my life. But a week ago, something had changed. I'd blocked a stranger, a man named Mark, who had become uncomfortably fixated on me. Back in high school, Mark and I knew each other. He was a quiet kid, and I'm ashamed to say, I bullied him a lot. I made fun of him every chance I got. But after we left school, I changed. Mark, though, never forgot. He blamed me for all his problems. When I blocked him online, he got really mad. All those feelings from the past became too much for him, and he decided to come after me. In my suburban neighborhood, where trees lined the streets and children played in the front yards, I began to feel uneasy. I'd catch glimpses of a shadow in my peripheral vision, or hear strange noises outside my window at night. My fiancée, Sarah, tried to calm me down. "It's just your imagination," she'd say, wrapping her arms around me. But I knew something was off. Days turned into nightmares. Sarah and I double-checked every lock and stayed close together, even adding extra bolts on the doors. But Mark's obsession knew no bounds. On a cold, dark night, the phone rang. It was Mark. He knew our address, our routines, everything about us. I called the police, but they were at least 30 minutes away. We decided to barricade ourselves in the bedroom and wait for the police. "He's here," I whispered, my heart pounding. We listened for Mark, and then the sound of glass breaking reached our ears. We realized with horror that he had smashed the basement window to gain entry. I had forgotten to secure it, a fatal oversight. The chilling sound of his footsteps echoed through the house as he made his way upstairs. He knew the layout. He must have been watching us for a long time. The doorknob to the bedroom turned slowly, then violently jiggled. My grip tightened on the baseball bat. In desperation, we opened the window quietly. I helped Sarah out first, telling her to run, but as I climbed out, a firm grip caught my ankle. I turned to see Mark's wild eyes, his face twisted with rage and madness. I fought back, but Mark was strong. A struggle ensued, and in the chaos, his knife found its mark. Sarah's scream pierced the night as I fell. The police arrived to a scene of horror. They apprehended Mark, but it was too late for me and Sarah. I knew I had done something terrible to Mark all those years ago. I saw the hurt and anger I had caused. I knew then that the bad things I had done had turned him into something awful. I realized I was the reason for all his pain, and now he wanted to make me feel the same way. What happened to us was my fault too. I had helped create the monster that Mark had become, and now I had to face the terrible things I had done. The suburban neighborhood, once filled with joy and laughter, became a place of mourning, forever haunted by the close encounter with the monster I had helped create.